But Real Madrid, definitely there was a lot more scope for improvement at the end of last season. Obviously, they won the league title, very impressive end to the campaign, but then, lost to Man City quite comprehensively in the Champions League, and a Man City side that, while they were very good against Real Madrid, were then beaten pretty comprehensively by Lyon in the quarterfinals. So there is a lot of work for Real Madrid to do, and the all the talk from the kind of indication that we got from Florentino Perez at the start of the summer was that basically the work that was being done was just getting rid of a lot of deadwood, which did need to be done, let's face it. There are a lot of players there on high wages who were not getting the game time and were not fitting Zidane's system. But the fact that they've not got anyone in their place and not kind of addressed areas that maybe need to be addressed in the long term, I think Real Madrid fans are justifiably concerned, because Atletico Madrid strengthened quite a lot this summer, didn't they? Barcelona, okay, no one's backing them to win La Liga, but they actually haven't. I think their response to this kind of summer of mayhem has actually been probably better than what we'd expect. I think Ronald Koeman's probably, I think his start to life at Barcelona has probably been a bit better than what a lot of us expected. That remains to be seen, but I digress about that. Let's just go into what's happened at Real Madrid this summer. Obviously, Gareth Bale's gone to Tottenham. Brahim Diaz has gone to AC Milan, hasn't he? Ranieri's gone to Dortmund. Kubo to Villarreal. All of those loan deals. And then, as for permanent switches, you've got James Rodriguez going to Everton, Achraf Hakimi going to Inter Milan, Sergio Reguilon going to Tottenham, Oscar Rodriguez going as well. That's a €94 million profit this summer. So in terms of kind of bookkeeping, I think it has been a positive summer for Real. Whether they should have sold all of those players, I'm not so sure about. I think we've spoken about it before, but Hakimi and Reguilon in particular, I think, were players that didn't necessarily need to go. And I think in particular with Hakimi, he could have been a really, really useful player for Bayern Munich this season. Not Bayern Munich, sorry. Could have been a really useful player for Real Madrid this season. Dani Carvajal is Zidane's man, isn't he, at right back? Obviously, he was even willing to send Odriozola on loan to Bayern Munich in January. And while he remains very solid defensively, his attacking numbers did decrease in 1920. I think he got 1 goal and 5 assists, which isn't terrible. But 1.3 key passes, down from 1.9 in 1819. His dribbles are way down as well, down to 0.8 a game from 1.9 the previous season. And Hakimi is kind of that guy. Obviously, Hakimi is, I think, hasn't really proven himself defensively, but certainly going forward, is already one of the best kind of wing backs / kind of full backs in Europe, at least in terms of his output for Dortmund. 9 goals and 10 assists in 41 appearances last season, including three tackles and interceptions, to be fair, as well. So he does get stuck in on the defensive end. I think it's more his positioning, which I think is people take issue with. And obviously he went to Inter Milan for €40 million, and I think I know we've kind of spoken about on some videos about that being like a bit of a bargain for Inter. To be honest, I think that's a fair price for him. I think if he'd gone for over 50 million, I think that would have been maybe represented, I don't know, just a little bit of not a gamble, but I think in this market this summer, the European market, I just don't see anyone going for spending over 50 million on a.
Do you say that mainly because, I don't know, he hasn't necessarily proven himself maybe in a back four, or maybe necessarily defensively? Is that your sort of concern?
It's off the back of one amazing season, isn't it? And he was very promising the season before, but it is one amazing season for a fullback. Fullbacks very rarely go for over 50 million unless you're, United or City. And the market's just been, a lot, the threshold in the market's been a lot lower this summer. So in that sense, I do think that, I think it's basically, if Real Madrid were going to sell him, that's the price they're going to get for him. But they probably shouldn't have sold him, essentially. Yep. Is what I'm trying to say, rather than like they should have got more money for him. I think that was always going to be the price they were going to get for him. So I think for me that's probably the biggest loss in terms of, or the biggest mistake in terms of outgoings. I think James Rodriguez, we could talk about how he was not used enough by Zidane, and how good a start he's had at Everton. Obviously, he's had a brilliant start to life in the Premier League. He's just so involved in everything that Everton have done in the last 3 games, hasn't he? 3.5 key passes, taking over 2 shots a game, averaging over 2 dribbles. He's one of the biggest passers in the side as well. Really key in ball progression as well as creativity. So what a signing he's been for them. But I think ultimately, I think Real Madrid were always going to get rid, weren't they? And I think it's probably best that they cut ties rather than sending him out on loan again. So yeah, I'm not taking too much issue with James leaving, I wouldn't say. I mean, the fact that he went for free, not great. But he was on £140,000 a week wages. I think it was good to get him off the books. However, losing him, Diaz and Bale for the season could come back to bite them for sure. They haven't looked exactly looked free flowing in the early stages of the season. Hazard's, he's having more injury troubles, isn't he? I'm not sure when he's going to be back. So yeah, they look a bit thin up top at the moment, and basically reliant on Vinicius and Rodrigo. Obviously, in the last 2 games as well, they've been playing a front 2 of Benzema and Jovic. So yeah, it's a bit of a concern for Real Madrid. They should have been going into this season as very clear favourites for the La Liga title, and I'm not so sure they are, to be honest. And they could lose Jovic as well before the window's out, which is kind of strange timing considering that he's actually been starting recently.
Yeah.
As opposed to before when he just couldn't get a game. And I think he didn't look too bad in the last 2 games. Especially playing kind of in the front 2, which he was more used to at Frankfurt, wasn't he? But yeah, I would be pretty concerned if I was a Madrid fan right now.
Yeah, there definitely seems like there's no real clear outstanding favourite for La Liga at the moment. I'd say it's probably Real Madrid narrowly, but Atletico Madrid looked excellent against Granada. Barcelona really surprised me against a very poor Villarreal side, at least in the first half. So the jury is slightly out on Real Madrid's business. I just feel like Hakimi, Reguilon, bit of a mistake, especially with Marcelo now 32 as well, although still playing very well. And Ferland Mendy, I really like as a player. So,
do they not have a buyback clause of Reguilon?
They do, yeah. They got a buyback of £27 million, but I think
it's 40 million, isn't it? I think 27
really?
million.
I seem to remember reading it was 27, but maybe
that was the fee. That was the fee of the transfer, I think.
The buyback being more. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough. Okay, so they've got that in place, but maybe they could have loaned him out for another year. I'm sure Sevilla would have taken him for another year, so selling him to Spurs, maybe not the best bit of business as well. And he looked like he was, once he got into the game against Chelsea the other night in the Carabao Cup, he looked like his exceptional recovery speed, really useful going forward. And he's very aggressive in defence as well. I think he was going to be a great pickup for Spurs, to be honest. I'm more excited about Reguilon going to Spurs than I am Bale, to be totally honest.